You can't, speaking is the worst. The first thing you find out is that you're not really speaking very well or at all. So that's why speech therapy comes into play straight away. So
Yep.
the first time you sort of leave hospital, they'll say, well, you need to get you sorted out with the speech therapist, which is what happened to me. Now, because of the vagaries of the NHS, that could take any amount of time to start off. It took me 6 weeks before I got an appointment to see a speech therapist.
Yes.
And what they do, obviously, is they assess you and they say, well, you need to work on certain parts of the problem. Now, my problem was I couldn't deal with words. So if he gave me 20 words, I could tell you about what 5 of them were. In my head, I knew all 20, but I can only I can only tell you about 5 of them, let's say. And this is the strange thing about aphasia, that everything's going on in your head perfectly normally, and then it doesn't come out right, or at all,
Yes.
whatever it might be.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm speaking with Jonathan Hirons from the podcast On the Tip of My Tongue. Hey Jonathan, thanks for speaking today.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Yourself? Good?
Yes. I'm very busy this month because it's Aphasia Awareness Month this month. So I'm busy, but we'll talk about that later.
We will, absolutely. So he's giving it away in a sense, although if you've read the notes, you'll know what this is about.
You'll know. Yeah.
So On the Tip of My Tongue looks at the subject of aphasia. Now, I've got the write-up here from the National Aphasia Association, and we'll see if this makes sense to people. Aphasia is a communication disorder caused by a stroke, brain injury, or, more rarely, a condition called primary progressive aphasia, PPA. It affects a person's ability to use language. Therefore, a person may have challenges talking, understanding others, reading, writing, and using numbers. Aphasia does not impact intelligence or memory, but it is highly dependent on the cause, location, and the extent of damage. It is a frustrating impairment, as people with aphasia still know what they want to say and can make their own decisions. Aphasia can range from mild to severe and may impact one or several aspects of communication. What do you think of that description, Jonathan?
It's pretty good, actually. It's clear, and it's not got any medical language written into it, so that's good.
That is good.
Somebody thought about that when they wrote that.
I won't go to the information further down that tells you that there are 8 different types of aphasia, and then
We'll be there all day.
We will. It's irritating in a way that almost half of people don't actually know what aphasia is, even though more people have it than have Parkinson's, which is more well known.
That's true. I think I know the answer to that. It's because it doesn't kill you, basically. It's the short answer. It's a secondary problem rather than a primary problem. So somebody with Parkinson's obviously I would call it a primary problem, because obviously it's to do with your body and so on and so forth. With aphasia, it's known as a hidden disability.
Yeah.
Because of what you just said in the intro. I'm a high level aphasic. Some people I know have no language at all, and some have very little. I can do what I'm doing now. Some people I know couldn't even string 2 sentences together, should we say. And that's because there are different versions of aphasia than just one. I have brokers, if you need to know, mainly, but I've got a couple of the others as well because some things go missing from my speech. So I think the reason why, as you said, that there seem to be more people know about something like Parkinson's is because Parkinson's is more visible. And also, there are a lot of well known people who've had Parkinson's as well. With the PPA that you had talked about earlier, the only person I know who's got is Bruce Willis.
Yes.
And that's a combination of losing your language and also losing, I can't think of the word. But anyway, so yeah, he's got a very difficult version of this. Most people don't have PPA. Most people have what I've got. Does that help?
That does help a lot, I think. So we'll cut to the crunch then. So what is your history with aphasia then, John, which is explained
Right.
in the very first episode of the show actually as well?
Yeah, yeah. I was working in London. I was working on a project, and I had a meeting that went fine. I went out to meet somebody, and while I was out, I suddenly started to feel very odd, and I started to find it difficult to converse in my head. Anyway, apparently, the person I was having lunch with didn't notice, but maybe that's the reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so when I got back from the lunch, I felt definitely weird, and then somebody said to me, can you change something on this document? And I couldn't.
Yes.
It was like swimming around, I couldn't understand what was on the page. And then my speech started to go a bit weird, get strange. So they called an ambulance and I was in hospital within, I don't know, an hour. Centre of London as well, which is quite incredible.
That's very
But
good.
I happened to be up the road from the hospital, UCH. So anyway, that was that. So they did a CT scan and said, "Oh, you've had a stroke or that bleed on the brain, which
Yes.
is effectively a stroke." And then I don't remember when that happened, but somebody said you've got something called aphasia, and that's the first time I'd ever heard of it.
I
I
mean,
knew nothing about it.
I'd heard of it in passing in television shows and things. Funny enough, in Star Trek, of all things, I remember it in there.
Really?
But it's a whole science fiction-y thing that
Yeah,
caused it,
exactly.
and then they all got it all back, got whatever, some sort of alien or something caused it. But at least, in a sense, that's the strange thing, is that it got that subject there in that way,
Mm.
which I thought was interesting. Star Trek has always done that, really, but that's on a tangent. So we've discussed the truth about aphasia and your history with it, but sticking on that just for a moment, were there certain therapies that you had to go through after that? And there are the sort of things that you have to do to keep yourself at that communicative level?
Yeah, well, everybody starts at the same point. You end up with one version of it, and basically you can't really communicate it, or you can't speak.
Yeah.
Communication is a different thing, but you can't. Speaking is the worst. The first thing you find out is that you aren't really speaking very well or at all. So that's why speech therapy comes into play straight away. So
Yeah.
the first time you sort of leave hospital, they'll say, "Well, you need to get you sorted out with the speech therapist," which is what happened to me. Now, because of the vagaries of the NHS, that could take amount of time to start off. It took me 6 weeks before I got an appointment to see a speech therapist.
Yes.
And what they do, obviously, is they assess you and they say, well, you need to work on certain parts of the problem. Now, my problem was I couldn't, I couldn't deal with words. So if you gave me 20 words, I could tell you about what 5 of them were. In my head, I knew all 20, but I can only tell you about 5 of them, let's say. And this is the strange thing about aphasia, that everything's going on in your head perfectly normally, and then it doesn't come out right or at all,
Yes.
whatever it might be. So most people end up, so I would think almost everybody starts with some sort of speech therapy to try and get that going. Now, some people obviously do better than others at doing that. Now, some people, as I know, people I know, who can only string together, as I said to you, a couple of sentences, or they tend to use the same words all the time to convey all sorts of different meanings. It's a very strange thing to have, of course. But I obviously, you know, that their intelligence has not disappeared, but they can't communicate what they're trying to say. The other thing is reading and writing. So I couldn't read or write for the first, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months. While I was doing speech therapy, they were helping me with my reading and writing as well. So reading is the first problem, because you read something, you see something, you don't know what it is. And the second thing is, if you're trying to write it down, that's virtually impossible. Well, it was for the first time with me. I couldn't. It was like child writing. If I wrote anything, it was like a child writing. As a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that for me that improved over time. The speech therapy didn't last that long. It was about 6 weeks, six sessions, once a week. But obviously, I got on quite well, so I think that helped. But unfortunately, my wife, in the meantime, had worked out that I had to do these sort of drills. So she bought some flashcards, children's flashcards, and this is before I did the speech therapy. And she went through the flashcards and said, "What's this? There's a snake or a monkey or whatever," and I'd have to try and tell her what the word is. So I think that, because she started straight away, I think that helped. And that is one of the things they say, is there's a moment or a number of weeks when you have to try to keep, otherwise you can't catch up with the problem. So I think that helped. And when I had started speech therapy, I'd already had this sort of grounding in what my wife had done. So so that was that. And then after the speech therapy, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
And this is the problem we've discussed in the past on the podcast, is what do people do after that? You've had the medical intervention, if you want to call it that, but now you're on your own. And I think this is where the big problem arrives, is what you do next.
It's an awful thing, really, because we both know that a lot of that problem there with what you've just said is because of the funding and how busy that people who work in the NHS are. But it's also a shame at the same time that they're in that sort of situation, because in any other situation, if they were better manned and they had the ability to be able to actually provide it easier, there should be sort of frequent checks on each person to see how they're doing, welfare checks, and find out how they're getting on, and keep making sure that they are. But we both know that it is because of these problems that they've got with manpower and not having the time to do it. And it's an awful thing.
Yeah, because we're back to the whole problem is it's not killing you. So it gets kicked down the line a bit. Excuse me. It gets put down the line a bit because it's not A&E, Once you've got over the problem, whatever it be, a stroke or a head injury or whatever, once that's been sorted out by the NHS, then as I say, it becomes a secondary problem. What would happen is that the funding for that, it is the funding really, starts to disappear. Speech therapists are quite difficult to get hold of as well. There's quite a lot of training involved in speech therapy, obviously, and there's not enough of them either.
No.
In fact, in the trust I was involved in, I think there was 3 or 4
Right.
in the whole trust.
So you've gone through the treatment, and then you've decided to do a podcast based on your own experience, but looking at the subject as a whole and other people who suffer from it and other people that work within it. And that you've done a wonderful episode I've listened to about the care industry, but that brings up another issue, which I'm not going to go into because I looked after my mother who had Alzheimer's. So it's difficult for family. It's different and situations there which are brought up in that episode. So what inspired you to do that, to come up with the podcast?
Right. Well, actually, I made a film first.
Okay.
So I made a documentary about aphasia from my experience. So after the speech therapy, I decided I had obviously researched what was going on, and I went to a group near me to find out what it was all about, obviously, and see how it worked. And the first thing that struck me when I walked in is that there was, I don't know how many people, there may be 20 people, all with different versions of it, and this wonderful lady running the group. And it struck me that that's what you need. That's what I needed to do, is to tell people about what what aphasia was, because I hadn't heard about it and most people haven't. So I thought, well, because in my background, I've always made films. I thought I'd do a documentary. So I wanted to find young people with aphasia rather than somebody older, because I think one of the perception was that if you've had a stroke, you were probably in your later years, should we say? Because as you probably know, it's not true. You can have a stroke at
True.
any age. So I decided when I did the documentary, I'd find some young people to talk to look at, apart from myself. So I found these two young people. She was only 20 something, and she'd
Okay.
had a stroke at 22.
Wow.
And the lad was hit by a bike coming out of a cricket match, and had a head injury. So I use them as the sort of to show what can happen and how people have to deal with aphasia, and obviously things that I've done myself as well. And the lady that used to run the group, she did some of the filled in the sort of the story behind aphasia and so on and so forth. And so I did the film. So I did the film first, and then that sort of, I got that out. I raised some money to do the film using, Kickstarter and so on.
Yeah.
And then after I'd done the film, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll do another film as a kind of follow-up. But as you probably know, films are very incredibly expensive to do
Yeah.
for all sorts of reasons, which I bore you with. So I thought, well, maybe a podcast would be a good idea because it's quite immediate.
Yep.
You could do it, and it's pretty much it's out straight away. Whereas a film, the film took me a year to do.
Yeah.
Doing anyway. So a podcast I can do in a week, not a year. So that's the idea of the podcast. And then I thought the podcast, basically, I started doing, where I left off with the film, I guess, and then it kind of grew. As I found different subjects, I do another podcast, and I brought my friend in, Rob Edwards, who because obviously my speech, although it may sound like my speech is okay, but I can't read. If you gave me a script, I can't read it.
Okay.
I just get the right word. I stumble through script, and
Okay.
that was not good. So I got Robin to do the heavy lifting, as it were. And so he does he does all of the intros, the outros, and he joins the podcast as well. And that's how it started.
I think it's good putting it out as a podcast because one of the best things about, we're going to get all technical now. One of the best things about the whole open feed, open RSS, is that it's there for everybody to get that
Yeah.
podcast. So the information is there for everybody. And the fact that you've not got to go to a strange source or anywhere to go and find it makes it much easier. And I think that's better for the subject to get out there to people that need to know about it. So that's the inspiration for the
It's
podcast.
portable as well, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the other thing. It's portable, whereas a video is not necessarily.
You can listen to it on a phone, through your laptop, on television nowadays, through whatever sources. It's everywhere, podcast, and that's one of the other good things about it. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've chosen Rob to be the co-host with you to do all that heavy lifting side, but also because you've got a long-standing friendship with each other as well. Episode 1 that you've known each other since you were 15 or something?
We were at school together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's 11 actually.
11. Wow.
A very long time. Over obviously we've gone our different ways variously, but we've never always kept up in touch. So yeah. So because he's an actor as well, he's he's used to reading things as well, which is not easy to do, as you probably know. Not easy to read something straight off the bat and make it sound natural. So, so he's been brought in for that as well.
One of the episodes I recorded recently, actually, I mentioned my own very small experience with acting over the years and how tricky it is to do that sort of thing.
To do it properly, yeah.
To do it properly, yes. Yeah. When you do audio drama, just make sure you record 3 or 4 takes, and
that's right.
they'll get to pick which
put
one.
them back together, yeah.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is.
So you've chosen your co-host, and then you choose guest and topics. And you were saying that when you started, it was a continuation in a way of the film.
Yeah.
So initially, did it start as where would I go next if I was making the follow-up film? Is that how it started, and that's how you chose the subject and the people that you had?
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking, well, I was going to revisit because there'd been a couple of years in between. But I was thinking, well, maybe I need to find some people with the same problem, but the different problem. And that's how it started. And also when I was picking initially, when I was picking subjects for the podcast, I was trying to find I didn't want it to be too technical.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be more that was as what that amazing phrase, the lived experience. So I was trying to find people who had some experience that was not necessarily medical, if that's the right word, even though they were involved. I mean, you probably in the earlier days, I talked to somebody that did carers. Now, obviously, he ran something in the Carers UK, but obviously he had some experience, but he obviously had experience of other people having the problem rather than having the problem himself. With the aphasia side of things, I'm picking people who knew about aphasia because it was their job, and also people who had aphasia to try and balance this between the real, what really happens to someone who's got aphasia, not what it says as you read out at the beginning. That's only the technical version of it, but you want to talk to people who actually got it. Like any other experience, really.
Absolutely. And if you out as much as you can of all the medical terms and these sorts of things, it makes it then easier for everybody to digest and understand it more. Because if you add in all the long words and the strange descriptions and things, it can sometimes, even to the best of people, almost shut them down in a way and think, oh, this is too much for me. If you put it over to them like you do in a straightforward, easy to understand manner, I think it makes more of a point.
Yes. The whole point of any of this is to make this whole thing more aware. So all along at the back of all of the things that I do is to try and make people understand what aphasia actually is. So we always come back to what aphasia. I mean, there's a standard bit of cut and paste we put in every episode. Is what is aphasia,
Absolutely.
and why are we talking about it? And that's what you. So we're all banging away at the same drum, unfortunately, because there's quite a community of people involved with aphasia for various reasons. But it's getting them, or getting outside the bubble, shall we say? And it is a bubble. We all know each other. We tend to know each other, but of course we need to get it outside, as I say, outside the bubble. So that the podcast is hopefully is one of the things that does it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've chosen the guest and the topics for the episode, and then you come to recording and mixing the show, how do you do that?
Right. So I'll go over what we talked about. It depends. I use a different system to you, but I use Zoom. I tried a couple of others, but Zoom seemed to be, generally speaking, fairly suited the way I was doing things, and the guests I was. So the way it works is that, generally speaking, sometimes I do them face to face, but generally they're online. I'll record both sides of the discussion and video at the same time, and then what I do then is I go through it and knock out all the ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff, and then cut out the bits where it's either not on subject or people get themselves into a mess, usually me. And so I have a rough cut, which probably is still going to be cut down by another, 5% or something to make it smoother. So then I mix. I use Reaper, because I'm familiar with Reaper. So I use Reaper to do this, the fine mixing. Reaper has some tools in it to do do the EQ and all that sort of stuff to get rid of the noise at the background, if there is any noise, and so on and so forth. Sprout is my delivery point, so I deliver it from there. So there's a lot of post production, because I have to do the what's it called? It's about like there's chapters, so I have to do the chapter. So we know. So it's written down on the show notes where everything happens. So I do that. I do a transcription, which is done for me mainly, and I also do all the bits around it, who the guest is, any information about the guest I've got, photographs, and so on and so forth. So that probably takes almost as much time as the editing. No, it's probably not true. Editing, as you know, can be a nightmare. Some are very quick and some are very, very, very slow. But normally it takes me about, I don't know, half a day, something like that, to sort of pull it together. And I tend to get one out every about 3 weeks, every 3 weeks. I can't do one a week. Because of the subject matter, and also getting people together. Because of my condition, I'm okay in the mornings, but as the day wears on, I get fatigued, and I just can't do it. So basically, I'm working half speed, as somebody who may do it. I don't know how many hours you spend on it, but I probably spend half of what you do, I suspect, because you've got podcasts going all the time. Mine tend to be, as I said, one every 3 to 4 weeks.
To pull the curtain away, so to speak, metaphorically, I record in lumps. So I will record, or try to record, a lot of episodes in succession, and then I have a time where I don't do that much at all, and it's all down. Then I can get to the editing and the everything else, the promotion, and all of these other things that I need to do as well. So I will have time to be able to do that. It's just the way that I've got used to doing it. So,
Well, yeah, I imagine everybody has a different way of doing the way they do it. I suppose if I think about it, probably your way is probably better than mine. It's getting them in the can, as it were, and then drop them every so often. That's presumably how you do it, is that you get
yeah,
I don't know,
that
6
is
done,
sort of
and
how I
then
do it.
then you drop them when you need to drop them. Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll have different ways of doing
If I do
these things, don't
clubs
we?
as well, I don't get worried either. Yes, well, 'cause I might, because I used to, when I first started, I used to just do them as and when, and I would come up on a release schedule and think, "Oh dear, I've got nothing recorded for this week."
Yeah, that
And
is the
that's
problem. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Fortunately, people come to me now. I suggest I'm so they somebody will say something and I'll think, oh, we'll use them then. But most people, as you probably know, most people are fairly happy to be on, on a podcast.
yes,
Has anybody said no to you?
I had a no. So not long after I started, somebody said no. They were a bit rude actually, which was, a learning experience. That's very rare. That's very rare in podcasting that
It is
people will
rare,
be
yeah. Well,
like
most
that.
people like to talk about themselves, don't they?
They do.
Let's be honest about this.
They do. But like yourself, I've got people approaching me to be on the show now, so I'm not at a loss for guests.
No, no,
Cross fingers.
I don't feel any pressure about guests, to be
But
honest.
I've got a wooden desk, so I'm
Touch wood,
touching
yeah.
wood.
I found you, didn't I?
You did.
I think I found
Exactly.
you, didn't I?
That's exactly the
Yeah.
thing. So people will approach me, then I listen to the episodes or their show, and I will always do that. I will always listen to their shows, get
You,
an idea, and do my own research. I listen to multiple episodes. And this is supposed to be a show about you, actually, this episode, but it's not supposed to be about me. But so I will do that.
well, why not
Get that
carry on,
ready.
though?
That's why not carry on. I'm stuck in laughter.
It's
now.
always about one, isn't it?
That is true. That is true.
Let's be really truthful about this. It's always
Yes.
about you, or one.
I'm going to go back to yourself now and not carry on with that thread.
Oh, right.
So-
Continue.
I like the title of the show on the tip of my tongue. That is really clever. Literally tells you what the show is about in a way, and the show art as well. So were they easy to come up with, both the title and the show art?
Title just happened.
Yep.
I don't know where it came from. The film was called On the Tip of My Tongue.
Yep.
Do you know, I can't remember. It was me that came up with it. I must have found the phrase somewhere, to be honest. I mean, it's not completely made up from scratch.
No.
I must have found it somewhere. Anyway, it seemed appropriate, as they say. So the film was called that, and then we thought, well, I'll keep going. And most people would say exactly as you say, well, it's a really good title, which it is.
Mm,
No bones about it. It's a good title.
it is.
As you say, it does what it says on the tin, doesn't it?
It really does. Because I mean, everybody says it, and it makes sense. Where if
it's a phrase that
if you have difficulty coming up with the words, people will very often say, well, "It's on the tip of my tongue." So
yeah.
there you go. And the show art.
Yes, I made that.
Okay.
It's Canberra, actually.
Okay.
I think I looked at a lot of other show art and thought, well, what was kind of is appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I came up with. I think you need to put, if you put some art is kind of, you think, well, this is nothing. This is just just, it doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
I think it means something, as me and Rob in a little studio in his house. That was when that was when the photograph was taken. And the idea with them was to get a picture of each person on the show.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of that's the nub of it. Is so obviously there's a background photograph that's used all the time, and then I take a photo. I get a headshot from everybody, and say, give me a headshot. Most people have got a headshot these days.
Yeah.
And I put the headshot onto the side and then obviously do the text according to what's going on at the time. But that actually, to be honest, that takes a little bit of time is to get it right. It's not, doesn't, I mean, I've got it templated to a certain extent, but you still got to fiddle about with it a little bit and think of a title of the actual episode as well.
Yeah.
Which again in itself could be a bit of a challenge.
It's a strange one because you'll listen back to the episodes when you're doing the editing. So you're doing the editing, but also at the same time, and I find this, I'm there and I'm sort of thinking, okay, what jumps out at me as I'm listening to this and editing?
Yeah.
What is it that jumps out at me that will tell me what the title needs to be or the subtitle?
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. What I do, another thing that I do in the actual podcast is that I do exactly what you said. You find some phrase and you think that's the nub of everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And I pull the phrase out and I put it at the front as a teaser. And then, so the, yes, it's a teaser. So you put a teaser at the front before the episode. So they'll hear that phrase, whatever that phrase is. And that tells you what the phrase is, tells you what the episode's about, really. So there's a teaser at the front. Then there's the stuff that we use all the time, which is what's aphasia and all that sort of thing. And then we go into into the usual podcast with whoever it is. Art, yeah, artwork. Yeah, I mean, people spend a lot of time on artwork, don't they? I've noticed that. YouTube particularly. Ours goes onto YouTube automatically using RSS. And I've noticed that a lot of people fiddle about with the art because it's a visual thing. I think YouTube expects a better or a different sort of take on the actual art of the show, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, when I was doing artwork for my show, and in fact, I've got professional artists redoing the artwork from scratch at the moment. So when this goes out, it should have the new artwork for it, the new logo.
Oh, looks exciting.
Which is good, and I'm looking forward to that. Because of that, so what I did when I first started, in a sense, because I'm a person who's got a love for I'm from the era when we used to collect records and big vinyl albums. So it was all about the artwork and it was a package. So to me, when I look at the logo or the artwork, it reminds me of looking at old album covers, which tell you what the album's about.
Yeah.
So that's how I've always thought about artwork for shows.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely right. As you say, it's a package, isn't it? It's not just the content, it's also the stuff that goes around it. Things to look at while you're listening to as well.
Yes. I used to do that a lot when I bought records. I'd buy the record brand new and then sit down and be reading from the whole, every detail that's on the album cover and look at it while I'm listening to the album a few times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, indeed. But also, you got just one other thing is, I suppose the art does have some effect even on a podcast, doesn't it? Because would you want to listen to it? It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
That's
and if
true.
if it's not it's not very interesting, you might go past it and not listen to it. I don't know. But somebody have done some study on that, no doubt.
Absolutely. But I mean, the way that you do the show, so you've got the artwork there and you're thinking of it that way as in bringing the people in and using it sort of almost like an album cover, like I was saying. But you've also added the other level where you've got the tease pre-show introduction. You've got the tease as well, which pulls the people in because they know something that they've got to look forward to or expect in the show.
Yeah.
And that is that. So it's all about hooking them in to the show and bringing them in, really.
Yeah. I don't know how successful that is. I'm assuming we've got, reasonable number of listeners. So I imagine it does work to a certain extent. But I don't know what, to be honest, to be really honest, I don't know what works. It,
No,
it just does,
no,
you know.
no. It's like Paul McCartney doesn't know how to write songs; he just does it.
Yeah, that's what he does.
So he says,
Yes. How do you write songs? I don't know. They
"I
just
know,
come to
I
me.
know."
They just come to me. Yeah.
And
So, yeah.
and just think, if it wasn't for Jerry Anderson, we wouldn't have the pre-credit sequence, which we all do now in our podcast, because he used to do it
Yes,
with
exactly.
and things.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, it's all, yeah, I know what you're saying. So you do somebody does one thing and everybody else, oh, well, and they all pile in and do exactly the same thing because it works, doesn't it? And
It
it
does.
works. That's because it works,
That's right.
and that's why people do it.
It's the hook. That's why the Beatles had the choruses at the beginning of the songs to open them up, because it
Yeah,
hooks them in. So
yeah.
going back to the subject of aphasia, then, what advice would you give to people? Number one, people who don't know that much about it, but number two, to people who are affected by it.
Yeah, well, I mean, unless it's, to be honest, unless it's happened to you or you're someone you know, it's unlikely that they're going to find out. Well, I'll find out about aphasia tomorrow, unless it's been, it's already been, something's happened in
Yeah.
their lives to know that this exists. So I think it's always going to be a bit of a struggle to get people to understand aphasia on its own, as it were,
Yeah.
because there's no. Because and I said, what is it? Well, it's sometimes you can't speak, and they go away, and people just find it hard to get their heads around it. To be honest, if you get aphasia, that's a different question, of course, because
Yes.
there are a few things. I mean, I'm no, obviously it's happened to me, but I would say that you've got to get on it. Basically, you can't sit back and think, oh dear, oh me, I've got this problem. You've actually got to do something about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's why speech therapy comes in. But even if you haven't got speech therapy, you need to keep it, trying to keep improving. There was a time, and it happened even when I got it, I think, where the doctors might say, well, you'll get so much and then that'll be it. There's a plateau, you know,
Okay.
and you'll never get any better. That's been debunked to a certain extent, that
Good.
you can do better, but it's hard work. Doing this helps me, obviously, because I'm forcing myself as a way to, as it were, to do these things. So it helps my speech. Somebody who doesn't do this and maybe doesn't interact with people, they might find it much harder. Groups is the other thing I would always say to people: go to a group, because you're with a bunch of people who've got the same problem as you for a start.
Yep.
So I won't sort of bore you with all of this, but it's hard work, particularly with people you don't know. Or my favorite way of doing this is like, you walk into a shop and you think you're going to buy something, and then you can't remember the words for it, and then they're trying to tell the person on the counter that what you're trying to tell them, and that you get yourself into a mess, and so on and so forth. So people get, what's the word, that you lose your confidence,
Yes.
basically. So I would say to anybody, if it's possible, obviously, because it's not always possible, is to go to a group, because the groups are the thing that pulls people together. It's also it's a community type thing, which, so you get to know people, because it's quite, if you've got something like this, when you first get it, you don't want to go out because you don't know what something might happen to me. Can't remember where I live, and I mean, I had my name and address written on a card to put in my pocket in case I got somewhere and I didn't know where I lived.
Okay.
So it helps people to get out and, you know, join the world again, I suppose. So yeah, so that I made the two things is is keep going, and also join a group, and
And
that works for most people, I would say.
I'm guessing in a group you would be helping each other out to, and
Indeed,
because you would all be speaking to each other and having conversations, which is practicing you and making you more fluent and
yeah, yeah,
makes it
yeah,
easier.
and also it gives you the confidence to be amongst people. I mean, for me, even now, if I'm in a group of people, it's very hard for me to keep up because I'm thinking I may be obviously you understand what's going on, but you can't join in because you're
Yes.
trying to think of all the words and what I was going to say and so on and so forth. So being in a group helps with your confidence. And confidence is a big thing, actually, for you to sort of to to get better with your to bring your confidence up. Because some people also the other thing is some people get depressed, not surprisingly.
Yes.
It, it's a it's a terrible thing to have if you haven't got the right people. Unfortunately, I've got the right people around me, but not everybody's that lucky.
No. No.
And some people live on their own, even worse, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So outside of this show, do you listen to other podcasts, and what are they?
I'd like to say yes. I do. Yes, I
Okay.
do. Well, I quite like the goal hanger ones. What are they called? The world the what is it? The
The rest is history and those sorts of things.
that's it. Yes, is the entertainment and all that. I do quite like those. I find them entertaining in the real sense of the word. So, but they're the big ones, aren't they? They're the very successful ones. I had somebody on my podcast called Talia, who had a different problem. She didn't have aphasia, but I brought her on because she was someone who'd picked herself up. I think that's the name of her podcast, actually. And she had terrible physical problems. She got well, she got, I think both her legs were broken. Anyway, it's something awful. I can't, to be honest, can't remember. So I listen to her occasionally, and I pick up. Yeah, as I go along, I pick. But to be honest, I don't listen to a lot. I'll be. I'm not. My wife listens to more podcasts than I do.
Okay.
I don't. But again, it's in my defense, it's concentration as well. I haven't got my concentration is poor. I can read an article, but I can't read a book
Okay. Yeah.
because it's too hard for me. Not hard, but it's too tiring for me to do.
Does the wife listen to your podcast? That's
No,
the question. No.
no, she doesn't. Yes, she does sometimes, or she may give her opinion. No, I do. I usually tell her what I'm doing, and she'll say, "Oh yeah, okay." And sometimes she listens. To be fair, she does, but she's not waiting for the next episode. Let's put it like that.
No.
Oh, you've done another one.
Oh dear, you're in there
Ah, here he
again.
goes.
Yeah.
He disappears with his headphones.
Oh, he's gone away for an hour and a half again. Okay.
As I am now.
So where can people find the show, and how can they get hold of you then, Jonathan?
Right. Okay. So the show is on all the major. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, Amazon, YouTube, and RSS. Of course, some people actually go straight to the RSS feed, don't they? So you can get me on. So every time we do a show, we send all the links out. I've got a website called On the Tip of My Tongue
Okay.
film.com because I couldn't get on the tip of my tongue because somebody else has got it. So that's on the tip of my tongue film.com shows well has and we've just had that redone. So it's not only got the podcast details and it gets updated automatically, but there's also the films on there as well. And also more information about aphasia, where to find out more and hopefully to the show so that we can keep the show going. Because, as you know, these things have some cost behind them.
They do.
And so, yeah. So we're to answer that. If they want to get hold of me personally, it's hello.com.
Okay.
And that will get me as and we're also on, as you know, on Instagram.
Yes.
Facebook. And there's one other, and I can't remember the name. Oh, and LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn.
So I did quite a lot on LinkedIn because I in my previous life, I was on LinkedIn anyway. So I just, repurposed it for LinkedIn. I get quite help from people via LinkedIn, actually. But that's kind of professional, as you know, it's a professional organization, really. So it's a different thing to Instagram, for example.
Yeah. I repurposed my own LinkedIn for the purposes of this podcast. Whereas before, when I first was with LinkedIn, I was I can't go into any details here. I was a security advisor, shall we say.
Okay.
That's what I did before. So I've just repurposed it now. That was what I was, and now I'm something else. So it's the same thing there with LinkedIn. Anyway, thank you for speaking with me today, Jonathan. It's been
great.
It was great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to talk to somebody who's got the same issues that we all have. I'm not talking about aphasia. I'm talking about running a podcast.
Yes,
but it's enjoyable, is it not? It's enjoyable, isn't it?
It is enjoyable, and don't want to stick on this for too long. It also helps with certain maybe issues that people might have with communicating with each other. It certainly made me a lot more of a communicator as well.
Right. There you go. Well done.
It's really useful.
That's great. Thanks so much.
You can find Pods Like Us on any streaming platform that is available, and you can contact us through podslikeus@gmail.com. All of the social media is found just by going to the marvzone.org on the front page there. Everything is there, all the links. But until next time, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.